Week 3 of your 2024 NFL season, and you're feeling really good about your team. You have a plus 62-point differential in the standings. You're feeling really good about the new offensive coordinator who's come in. And the head coach seems to finally be gelling his team, and they're playing like a unit. Your all-pro running back is playing like an all-pro running back. And that big money quarterback you have, maybe he looks like he's going to be the right fit for this system. Fast forward 7 more weeks. Now you're 2-7, and you're thinking, can it get any better? Yes, it can, because I'm talking about, you guessed it, the New Orleans Saints. You wouldn't think that losing to the Carolina Panthers, a team so inept they couldn't even beat the UCLA Bruins if it came down to it, you wouldn't think that would be a great thing if you're a Saints fan. You're wrong, because this Saints fan was elated when that happened, because you know what I knew was coming? That's right. The thing that happened less than 24 hours later, Dennis Allen was fired. Gonski's done so for the rest of his Saints tenure. He is bye-bye. I could not be happier. But the work is not done. New Orleans still has pieces in dominoes to knock down in order for this Saints fan to be happy again, as if the times when Sean Payton and Drew Brees were the head coach. Guys, it's 2 weeks in a row, and Manny and JB are back together again. This is your weekly edition of Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores
and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, Box Scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
Manny.
Yes, I'm still here. Nowhere to go.
Nothing spells success like a bookend Carolina Panther game when you win and then you lose and then you're fired. Nothing spells success more than that. And I'm telling you, I was elated when Carolina came back with 2 minutes left. I was so excited. I was so mad that they were winning with more than 2 minutes left. I was like, please, if there are football gods, this is going to be the moment that they show themselves to me, and Bryce Young will lead this victory.
Football gods really do exist.
Yes.
I have a question for you about that. Who should be happier? Panthers fans or Saints fans? And there's a double-edged sword with the Panthers side, because they might want a better pick, but at the same time, they probably want to have some hope that Bryce Young just needs time, and him leading a game-winning drive really is a optimistic view to take with that organization. Yeah. But at the same time, they're making their draft stock worse. They're officially 2 wins now, which means the Giants are right behind them for the first overall pick.
I mean, don't underestimate the Carolina Panthers' ability to be completely inept. This is, I'm going to go back to week 2 when the Saints demolished Dallas in Dallas. And I was like, whoa, where's this Saints team coming from? And I was like, whoa, hold up. It was the Dallas Cowboys. So it's not like this is still an inept franchise. The Carolina Panthers are. It's still a bad team. They still hold the number 1 pick. And Brian Daboll is just dumb enough to win just enough to maybe even leave the top 10 and get the number 11 pick and really screw the Giants over big time, especially if he thinks he's on the hot seat. He's like, let me screw this franchise over real big. So
either way, he's fired for the most part. I think
he's gone. I don't know. He's leaving.
There's these weird rumblings that he might not be getting fired after this year. I don't know why. Maybe because they're still giving him the benefit of the doubt because he inherited Daniels, not Daniels.
Daniel
What's
Jones.
his name again?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Danny Dimes.
I think there's some skepticism or like a little bit longer leash because he inherited that quarterback. So maybe they want to give him a chance if they do bad enough for him to draft a quarterback and then see how he does with his own type of quarterback that he could use. But yeah, the story still stands. Very likely fired. Very likely top 10 picks unless he does just enough to be mediocre. Nothing spells better, New York better than mediocre. That is the theme of this 2024. Nothing spells mediocre better than New York.
Yeah. That I expect it from the Giants. But I want to go back to the Saints just for one moment because I'm not done reveling in my excitement here because they're, contrary to what you might believe, there is some pessimism here, and it's not from the fact that they're 2-7. It's not from the fact that they've done jack squat since Drew Brees wasn't the quarterback of that team. No, it's because this is a terribly run organization. Gail Benson should have fired. She should have did a BOGO deal on Monday. I'm going to fire Dennis Allen, and then I'm going to let Mickey Loomis go too. That should have been the BOGO deal. Coach and GM gone. Both.
Well,
but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't. Mickey Loomis has not done anything with this franchise since Sean Payton and Drew Brees left it together. Like since they have not been together, nothing has happened with this franchise, which tells you that it had less to do with the roster construction and more to do with the on-field general and the coaching on the sideline. So that is a highlight right there. He should be gone. He should be donezo. He should be bye-bye, just like Dennis Allen. But this organization is poorly run. It is not competent. They have no quarterback. My mom was asking me on Wednesday, right, or whenever the trade deadline was. And so Tuesday, she said, do you think Derek Carr is going to get traded? I said, well, you have to think about this. He's getting all this money. You have to think about a current team in the playoff hunt who has a starting quarterback worse than Derek Carr, and they don't exist because they're in the playoff hunt. So it's so I'm not putting my money on Derek Carr leaving New Orleans this year. And then so you have terrible quarterback play, and then it's a completely incompetently run franchise. And then lastly, they crunched some numbers for what the salary cap's going to look like for this offseason. And the 31st worst team will be $3 million over the cap. The
That's
Saints
not the
are
Saints,
the 32nd team. They will be almost $62 million over the cap. And that, I don't even know if that's including the $31 million in dead money that they inherited when they traded Marshawn Lattimore to Washington.
They have to. I don't know how current or like live.
I don't know if they've done that math. I don't know. I know the Saints have been upwards of 80 million over the cap in recent history.
Between 60 and 80, we'll put it that way.
I was talking to a fellow listener today, and I told him that we have to start this over. Burn this thing to the ground because you're going to be nearly 70 million over the cap. You have dead money coming in next season. You have dead money the year after that. They won't reach the black until probably year 3 from this moment on. So if you're going to rebuild now. Do it now. No more signing Chase Young to a $13 million contract. No more saying, hey, Drew, let's restructure your contract. They haven't even played with us for 4 years. And let's keep paying you like Bobby Bonilla money. No, we need to stop with the Bonilla money. We're done. This has got to end. And so
You know what? I think the situation that you're breaking down right now might be the saving grace for the GM, because I'm sure the ownership knows that if they fire the GM with a $60 million over the cap, being negative 60 million above the cap, who was gonna want that job? Nobody's gonna want that job to try fixing that mess. They're probably like on the having meetings saying, you need to get us out of this cap space, and then you're fired. Just know you're still gonna get fired. Fix our cap, and then you're gone.
Yeah. I want Ben Johnson to be the head coach of this team so bad, but not right now. Not right now. Don't ruin Ben Johnson's good name. You want to ruin someone's name? Bring in Brian Flores, okay? Because if you fire him, you can just say, well, he called everybody racist, and then he's gone now. So
that'll sit well in Louisiana.
Yeah, everybody in Miami's racist. Yeah, because that makes sense. And then, like, I believe New Orleans. I'm from there. I believe that. But I just, like, this has got to stop. Bring in some retread. Or let's see how Darren the Rizzy does. Let's see how Rizzy does as a head coach here. He's been in position for 3 days. They had their first practice today, I think it was, and they've already, or yesterday, and they said that this dude's a leader. Now, my only my only caveat to that is that and this includes us, because we fell to this narrative as well last year when Antonio Pierce took over as the interim of the Raiders, and they're like, "Whoa, the players are playing great for him," but he's a player's coach. But Pierce's biggest advocate is playing with that knucklehead quarterback with the Jets now. So it's one of those things where, like, you can get caught up in, like, oh, the players love him. Okay, this isn't the NBA, all right, where there's no structure and you're allowed to just go be a hoodlum off the court and be a hoodlum on the court and then no accountability. This is a real sport, okay? This is a sport with real consequences, all right? People actually get hurt in this sport. And so you need to be able to have someone who's going to lead your locker room. That needs to happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how well the players like the guy. That's what assistant coaches are for. The assistant coach is to be the guy that's all buddy. The head coach is, no, you play for me. You don't like it? Tough. Like, you're going to go do it. So
that's true.
Yeah, so I like that they like him. I get it. The Saints might not have any other option because there's no viable candidate that wants this job. Nobody wants this job.
No, there's not.
Nobody.
Well, we'll see. It might be the best job available at the end of the year.
No, I didn't say nobody wants it. I said no viable candidate.
Oh,
nobody we should take seriously wants this job.
That's
so.
Fair.
That's.
Were you surprised that? I'm guessing you weren't too surprised that they traded away Lattimore, considering you're on the boat of completely rebuilding, and he was.
I'm not.
Most would consider the cornerstone for that defense. So
no one on the Saints has suffered more phantom injuries since Michael Thomas, and so Marshawn Lattimore is going to do just fine. I hear his hamstring healed up real quick the moment he got the phone call. It was a miraculous healing. It was the Book of Acts healing. That's how great a miracle it was. So, but yeah.
But were you surprised? Were you surprised by the Kamara signing? There's a follow-up to that. The extension, I should say, because I don't see why they would extend him. Well, both parties. I don't understand why it benefits either party. The Saints, they're not going anywhere. Kamara is probably very likely their best player. Kamara's not getting any younger. He's taking a beating, and why stick around besides just loyalty to the city? I just if you that's not common in football. Like baseball, it's common. Even basketball is common. It's not common to have like the loyalty for a city in football at all. Yeah, so I just don't get it.
Yeah, that one was confusing to me. I get wanting to keep him because you're not exactly sure. In this day and age, unless something drastic happens because of the resurgence of old running backs, thanks to Derrick Henry and Saquon, unless something happens because of in the industry because of what those two are doing, the value for a running back is a lot less what you would get in return than you would just keeping him. So if you have the opportunity to keep him for like a modest price, and I mean, and let's face it, most contracts nowadays they've all been this way. Contracts have been earned based on your prior performance. They're not based on what you can do in the future. So there's also to be some level of overpay, but I can see the argument for keeping him because, like I said,
it's a very weak one, but it is an argument. But why would he want to? You can see it from the organization side, but why would he want to extend besides just securing his contract or making sure that he gets his money? Because he wasn't on an expiring contract for this year. He still had like one more year left in his deal, so he could have played it out or even looked to see what was out there in the offseason.
Looking at the money that he signed for, he was not gonna. He decided to stay and to get his money now because he understands he understands the assignment here. He's an aging running back. He's not getting any better. He's not getting, like you said, no, he's not getting younger. No one is, and he looked reality square in the jaw and said, "All right, this is probably my last chance." And then let's see. I mean, like maybe something happens, because of, like I said, the resurgence of running backs like in Saquon and Henry. Maybe something happens, and they're like, hey, Alvin's still got something. Alvin's still got some little pieces to him, and he's not completely obsolete outside of being a running back. The dude's a great pass catcher. You could put him in the slot. He can run down the field. He can run slants all day. He can run wheel routes. This dude is multifaceted. So it's not as if even if he wouldn't get top dollar, he could still make a pretty penny. But I think he took this opportunity to say, hey, maybe he was looking at the landscape of this team and saying, hey, I'm Alvin Kamara. I've been the face of this franchise since Drew Brees retired. I have some credibility in this locker room. I have credibility in this city. Maybe I can extend my stay here and be able to be kind of and help usher in the new era of Saints football. Because you got to think about it too. The other player on the Saints who is the longest tenured player on the Saints is Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan's been there forever, and God love him. I want to see him win a ring, and it's not going to happen with the Saints. Not with the time he has left. It's not gonna. I would love to see him go elsewhere and win a ring somewhere. And I was kind of sad that he wasn't traded because it would have been great for me to see him. I would have loved to see Cam Jordan. I'd love to see Cam Jordan win a ring in New Orleans. That's not going to happen. I'd love to see Cam Jordan win a ring on another team at least. So, and as a fan of my team, the last person I felt this way about a player for one of my favorite teams was when Mark Grace was a member of the Chicago Cubs. He was never going to win a trophy with the Cubs. So it's just never going to happen. And him going to Arizona and winning that World Series on the fluke blooper against that, I forget who they played. It's really slipping my mind. I think they played in the World Series this year, but Arizona winning that World Series against the Yankees was really awesome for me because I got to see Mark Grace win a trophy, and it was bittersweet, but I loved it because he's my favorite player. Cam Jordan's my favorite Saints player. He's my favorite one, and so
he probably didn't get traded because of his own doing. I think the Saints probably would have looked into the trades just because of the status of the organization. He's the one player that I could say he probably said, "No, don't trade me. I'd rather just stay here and see the rest of my career end in New Orleans," because that's the only thing that would make sense. Financially, it didn't make sense. For a rebuild status with an old player, it didn't make sense to keep him around. Like, everything pointed to him get traded. So the only thing that can make sense out of it is that he's the one that said, "No, I'm good. Just leave me here and we'll call it a day," and whatever. They will probably restructure his contract and end up alleviating some of that cap space we were talking about. But yeah, I think that was 90% of his doing, and not the team choosing to keep him.
True.
But enough about the Saints. I know we could talk about the Saints for an hour, but there's a couple other teams that I wanted to talk about. We started this episode talking about head coaches, so let's continue this conversation. And I have two head coaches that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And they're both from the NFC East. Let's talk about Nick Sirianni and Mike McCarthy, the Eagles and the Cowboys coach, because we could both sit here and possibly argue whether they should both still have a job, whether they should be in the team next year. But let's talk about why their paths are completely different. Starting with the Cowboys.
Case. Yeah.
Let's start with the Cowboys. And I want to ask, my case is asking you why does it make sense to keep Mike McCarthy through this year, considering what the year has turned into, where it's not going anywhere. We already know that. Dak pulled his hamstring, and now it's 99% likely that he's going to go in IR because he separated his hamstring from the bone or something crazy happened to it. Why keep him as a lame duck comparing to firing him? What?
His hamstring. Yeah.
Yeah. So why not let him go and start that search early? What is the argument for that?
I think the argument for that is the same as what it could be for New Orleans. I think in this case, you're just waiting for. It's like that TV show that you keep watching because you want to see the lead character die. It's like watching Game of Thrones and Cersei's still alive. You're like, is this woman ever going to die? Because that would be fantastic. And then she doesn't die. This is what it means to be Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is never going to die. And so you can have as many seasons of the Dallas Cowboys as you want. I think every head coach candidate, if you weren't already paying attention, I think every head coach candidate was put on notice this past offseason when Jerry Jones says we are going all in, and they barely kept Micah Parsons. So and they made no attempt to sign Derrick Henry. I don't know what all in means to this man.
Nobody does. I don't think that guy knows.
I don't know if he was eating paint chips while he was watching the oil rushing through East Texas. I don't know what was happening with this man. But if you're a head coaching candidate and you hear that and then you see what didn't happen, like, okay, well, that's what all in means? If I'm going to work for you, that's what you're giving me? So the case into keeping a Kirkland signature Andy Reid is that you might not. I mean, just have a lame duck coach on your sidelines.
But he's a lame duck. What's the difference? That is the counter argument. He's not.
Whoever you bring in is not going to be able to do anything better. Because Jerry Jones is making all the decisions. So until Jerry Jones dies, and then in Jerry's will, he tells Steven, hey, upon my death, fire Mike McCarthy. Like this is like, you're asking me for an argument in favor of Costco Andy Reid, and this is my favor. This is my pro argument, because there's no one in their right mind. And I get it's the Dallas Cowboys. I get it. For some reason, there's still an allure. Okay, there's an allure about the Dallas Cowboys. I get it. Okay, she was the hot girl in high school. She still looks pretty good working at the Piggly Wiggly. I get it. Okay, whatever. You're on the rebound. You're looking to score and feel better about yourself. Hey, let's put myself out there. Let me see if I can make myself feel good about what I'm doing in life. Okay, you can do that. You can hook up with the Piggly Wiggly deli girl because she was hot in high school. Okay, you can do that. But why would you? Why would you want to do that? She's got 6 kids from 5 different fathers. This is what it's like to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. This is it right here. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
It is.
And the only allure there is the fact that she was good looking in high school. That's it.
It just doesn't make sense to me because there's no argument that we can both sit here and say there's no way in hell they keep him or re-sign him after this year.
I don't think they should. You asked me for a pro. I gave you a pro argument.
I know.
That's the best I can come up with.
My question is, why not at this point? Like, you wanted to see what he could do. Like, all in, let's see what you have with this roster. It doesn't have much. So if you're not going to keep him now, why not start the search early? Even if you have somebody in-house that
why not do it right now? Because of pride.
Yeah, why not?
Because he's Jerry Jones. Because he said he was all in on the lame duck coach. Jerry Jones is not going to show any sign of defeat. He is not going to take off his Calvin Klein underwears and wave them in the air and say, I admit defeat. That's not going to happen. Jerry Jones will not do that. He is beyond the twilight of his career. I don't know what's keeping this man alive. The blood of young virgin boys. I don't know what it is, but like this, he is not going to admit defeat.
So you're saying that if he fired him, he would be throwing in the towel on the season and therefore calling the season
he would have to eat his words. I'm all in. And if you're Jerry Jones, all in is barely keeping Micah Parsons and not extending your head coach. That's what all in means to this man. And he is going to follow through with that.
I'm torn. I can't. That is the best argument you could probably make. His own pride gets in the way, but organizationally speaking, it would make the most sense.
Name one thing Jerry Jones has done in the last 30 years that tells you he cares a lick about how this franchise does. Name one thing.
Not once.
Dave Wannstedt was once a person, a person on this planet who had a reputation, and he was once the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay? This is not a man who is serious about what this franchise does. He cares about money. And I think now, honestly, I think now he's starting to experience his own mortality. Finally, I guess when you're 82, you begin to realize maybe this isn't forever. I don't know, but
he's having his midlife crisis finally.
Yeah, he brought back Zeke Elliott and said this will solve everything. I never agree with Stephen A on anything, but what on earth is a Rico Dowdle? What is that? I thought that was a ShamWow before this season. I thought you cleaned cars with that. I didn't know that was a running back for a football team, for an NFL franchise.
He's not. Trust me, he's not a running back for a franchise. He's a person that exists in the NFL world, but he is not a running back.
That is the greatest compliment I can give a Rico Dowdle. He is a person that exists. That is the greatest compliment.
True. True. So we're on the same page that it makes no sense besides Jerry Jones' pride to keep Mike McCarthy at this point in the season. Because they're at the point where even as Dak Prescott is out, the coaching staff still doesn't trust what they've seen out of Trey Lance to make him the backup, considering Jerry Jones traded for him to possibly be a good backup, if not the future quarterback if Dak Prescott didn't work out. So we're at the point where we just have to agree that nothing makes sense and the season doesn't matter for Jerry Jones whatsoever. He's just going to stick it out because he can stick it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we made sense out of it, but we're both just as confused, which makes me feel better.
Because it's all confusing. None of it makes sense, and that is the essence of Jerry Jones. It doesn't make sense, other than he is too proud.
And the cherry on top of it not making sense is the trade that they made at the deadline for freaking Where's Waldo for a 4th round pick, considering the fact that they traded away Amari Cooper for a 5th round pick, and they gave a 4th round pick for a receiver that has 3 receptions in the year for like 8 yards.
Yep. This is what happens when you're making trades, when your colostomy bag is being changed, okay? You're not thinking straight.
Can we start a petition to make owners have to take like an IQ test or a competency exam? You have to be qualified to run a billion-dollar organization. I'm not too sure Jerry Jones is all there at this point in his life.
Well, the beautiful thing is that the Dallas Cowboys is his own Rorschach test, and he can see whatever he wants to see. Because you know what? He bought the Rorschach test. It's his, and he can do whatever he wants with it.
That's true. Yep. But on that note, let's move away from that organization and talk about the other one. How many times have you experienced an NFL coach being booed as his team is 6-2, second in the division, if not for the renaissance that is the Washington Commanders? Over the weekend, I was watching the Eagles game, and they were winning. A couple of mistakes made the game closer against Jacksonville that they should have been, and the Eagles fans were booing Nick Sirianni for every decision that he made, and they won the game. And I don't think Eagles fans left happy.
No, that was such trash football. I've never like how do you watch that as an Eagles fan and be like, yeah, we won by 5. That was a good game. Oh, who'd you play? The Ravens? No, we played Jacksonville. Like, okay,
the 2-5 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Like what? That was a good game. You won by 5. Okay, sounds good. Like I have said this all season. The moment that the Eagles let Shane Steichen go, Nick Sirianni ceased to know how to coach. Okay, it's like so. Davey Martinez was Joe Madden's bench coach for the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs win the World Series. Davey Martinez goes and coaches the Nationals, right?
Yeah.
Joe Madden just completely tailspins the entire Cubs franchise into mediocrity with the help of an inept front office. And then Davey Martinez goes and leads the most unlikely World Series parade ever in the history of baseball with a team that was below 500 at the trade deadline. There's people out there who don't say or don't believe that your assistant coach or in football, your right-hand man in football, your OC, whoever it is, your quarterback's coach, whoever it is you lean on, whoever's out there saying those people don't matter, Nick Sirianni is a prime example that they damn well do matter. Because Shane Steichen leaves and the Eagles they're like an eagle soaring with a weight on one wing. Like, he's he's getting up there. Oh no, he's sunk again. Like I don't know when this bird's going to take flight. I got no clue. I think one wing is broken. I don't know how he's gotten this far. So but it doesn't surprise me. And this is Philly, okay? They booed Santa Claus, all right? Like this is not. Philly is the one city that has a statue to a make-believe figure in Rocky Balboa. Yeah. Okay, this is, and it wasn't even to the guy who Rocky was based off of. This is based off of Sylvester Stallone. They have a statue dedicated to Sylvester Stallone. The Tulsa King is standing high in bronze in Philly. Okay, he's not even in that state anymore. Okay, this city makes no sense whatsoever. But in this case, they do. I agree with them. I absolutely agree with them because this is a blue collar city, In order for you to encourage another man, you tear him down in public.
I agree with them. I agree with them that they should be booing him because it is the ugliest 6-2 team I have ever seen. 6-2 is a strong record, and anybody would say this is a really good championship contending team. But when your head coach is fighting with their fan base, that is a red flag. I've seen a lot of instances where the head coach loses the locker room. They always say that nobody believes in the head coach. The players don't like the head coach. I have never once experienced a head coach losing the fan base. I have never seen that in my life, ever.
Yeah.
Of a 6-2 team. Usually they look past the coach if the team is doing good. These fans, they do not care. They don't want him there no matter what. The only reason they would maybe cheer for him would be if they won the Super Bowl. And even then, if they won the Super Bowl, I could hear Fire Sirianni happening at the Super Bowl parade. That is how drastically separated this fan base is from that individual person, which blows my mind. So I have a question for you. If I had a magic card or I gave you ultimate power for one instance, who would you fire if you had one opportunity to fire? Mike McCarthy or Nick Sirianni right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni. This team is way too talented. There are too many weapons on this team to only be scoring 28 points on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I know that's one game. I get it. But this is Nick Sirianni reminds me of John Gruden. Okay, John Gruden is great for one half, and then he never adjusts to the game after that. Never. It just does the same thing. Like this, like I talked about Ben Johnson earlier, leading the New Orleans Saints. I hope he doesn't go to New Orleans because I don't want to ruin his good name and what he's earned and and what he's built up and his reputation so far. It would only ruin it. Please stay as far away from the Big Easy as possible. But Ben Johnson would be great in Philly. This dude is an offensive mastermind. And if you have Jalen Hurts, you have the resurgent Saquon Barkley, you have the receivers galore on the outside. This is a dream position if you were an offensive-minded guy. And mind you, he wouldn't be coming into some restart. This is a team with all the pieces in place. All the pieces are in play. Imagine what he can do with this. Imagine what someone who's competent can do something with this. Imagine.
No, it's a crazy situation to consider because, the Eagles have only beat one team by double digits, and that was the New York Giants, 28-3. And they're on a 4-game winning streak, and yet here we're talking about the head coach being on the lukewarm seat, which again, I've never come across that.
Look at Schottenheimer. All those years he led the Chargers to a 14-3 record. And he got fired. Yeah. He got fired because he couldn't do anything in the playoffs. It doesn't it does not matter how well you do in the regular season. It does. It has some merit to it. I get it. But if you cannot carry your team to we have officially entered the second half of the season. This is when Nick Sirianni, post Shane Steichen, famously just goes bad. It goes bad. Do not trust the expiration date on your milk, folks, in Philly, because it's going to go bad a week prior to that. It's like this. It just goes bad so quickly. So quickly.
Yeah. It's between those two situations, they're on completely different tracks. And yet they are at the same level of comparison when it comes to how they're being run, which blows my mind. I never thought I would be able to say that about a team that is 6-2 and a team that is 3-5. But it just goes to show the parity that we have going on in the NFL this year, because we have there's so many teams that are under 500 that shouldn't be under 500. I expected this to be a competitive season, across the board just because of how many moves happened during the offseason. And yet here we are talking about the Dallas Cowboys being 3-5 without firing their head coach, without a starting quarterback, and the Eagles being 6-2, right in the playoff hunt for a wild card right now. And they possibly should be considering firing their head coach.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this question. And so let's go conference by conference. In the NFC, out of the 7 teams that it's the season end today would make the playoffs, who is the most impressive? And I'm going to give this to you, okay? Who's the most impressive team? And what is the biggest shock? Okay. So you have the Lions, you have Washington, you have the Falcons, and you have the Cardinals as the division leaders. And in the wild card, that's right, I said Arizona Cardinals. In the wild card, you have the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Packers. And right on the outside are the Bears and the Niners and the Rams at 4-4. Okay? Out of the 7 teams that I gave you, who is the most impressive to you?
Impressive?
Yes. Like let me rephrase it. Going into this season, which one of these teams did you not even you didn't even blink an eye and think, oh yeah, they're absolutely going to be in the playoff picture?
I would have the solidified team from the beginning would have to be the Lions. They were based off of what they did last year. They'd have to be the solidified. Now, if I had to flip that and say which the team that I didn't expect, I'm torn between Washington and the Vikings. The Washington, I sat here. I think I did the schedule breakdown, and I gave them a record of 5-12 or something crazy.
Yeah.
And then the Vikings, I said once they lost McCarty that they were gonna just wait it out and just hope for next year. And yet here we are talking about both of them being right in contention. So I'm torn, but simply because they're doing it with the rookie quarterback, I would have to say Washington is the most surprising, and the Lions are the most impressive ones because the Lions have dominated. When they win, they dominated. Even after they lost Hutchinson, they're still dominating. And pretty much we're at the point where by second half, they're just trying new plays during the game and seeing what kind of works and what weird things they can pull off. It's like background football, which is crazy to think about a team being at that level offensively to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would say sitting here, I would say I'm the most shocked at the Arizona Cardinals sitting at the top of the NFC West. I did not think that the Rams and the Niners and the Seahawks were going to be this mid, that the Cardinals are a half a game in the lead in that division. And at the season ended today, only one NFC West team would make it. If you told me only one NFC West team was going to make it, I would say, oh, San Francisco. Absolutely.
They ran through the division,
It's the only NFC West team in the playoff picture right now. If the season ended today, they'd be the only one, which is a shock to me. And what's more of a shock is that they have a negative 7-point differential. They're the only ones with a negative point differential in playoff contention as we speak. They're the only ones with a negative one. And so that kind of that would blow my mind. And then my second one would be Minnesota. I did, as much as the league loved and threw parades for Sam Darnold. I get it. I did not think he was going to lead the Vikings to a 6-2 record. I did not think that at all. At all.
Nope.
That did not cross my mind one bit.
No. The Cardinals is definitely something to consider because it is the Niners division to lose. And because of all their injuries, the 49ers gave every single team every opportunity they could to separate themselves and make it that much harder for the Niners to come back to the division lead. So in that, because of the expectation for the 49ers, I'm almost disappointed that the Cardinals are in the division lead considering their record. because now the Niners are getting healthy, and that gap, you needed it to be a couple games to be able to constantly keep the Niners chasing something. Now with one slip up and one win on the Niners side, they're back on top. It's really that simple.
McCaffrey's coming back now.
Yep.
Like the Niners being 4-4, and then Brock Purdy actually playing like the starter that they wanted Purdy to be, and McCaffrey returning to the lineup. This is going to be a formidable team down the stretch. This might be the hottest team in the NFC coming down the stretch. And so I'm not worried at all about the Niners in the state of their franchise, or the state of their ranking for at least this season. Not even close. But let's move to the AFC. Same exercise. Let me give you the teams.
Sure.
Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Texans, all division leaders. Wild card, Ravens, Chargers, Broncos. Right behind them are the Colts and the Bengals at 4-5, and I'll throw a bone to the Jets at 3-6. They're the 10th seed. Okay, because they're only 2 games behind the wild card. Okay,
that's right.
So, same question: which team in the AFC in playoff contention, if the season ended today, is the most surprising to you?
I would have to lean towards the Steelers for the same explanation that I just gave about the Ravens. In the Niners in a way, because I expected the Ravens to run away with that division, and they're just not doing enough to run away with it. And that's more. It's not even a testament to the Ravens, because I feel like they're doing everything right. They lost a couple of games that they shouldn't have lost, starting with Week 1, but the Steelers just don't look like a team that would be leading the division in more than one way. They don't score a lot of points. I get that their defense has been leading their team, but the statement always has been, when it comes to an offense, that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. And the Steelers have 2 quarterbacks that they've played and have won games with, and yet they look like a dominant team that can actually be somewhat competitive in the conference, which is why it surprises me, because I don't know that we could look back and say which team made Week 5, Week 6 quarterback change and still ended up leading the division. In that same year. That's not something that you normally say. Usually when you make a quarterback change, like, crap, we need to figure out what's going to happen in the future. No, the Steelers are right in it, which blows my mind.
Yeah, to caveat on you're saying if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. Well, the Steelers didn't have a quarterback to begin with. So, try anything. So mine is, if I had to guess, if you asked me, I would say the most surprising team here is Cincinnati, because I did not expect them to be this bad. I just didn't.
True.
I didn't expect them to come into this season, and granted, they've rebounded quite nicely, being 4-5 after starting out 0-3. They've rebounded quite nicely. But it's but to go to the teams that are in it right now, the Broncos, man. The Broncos.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That would be right. That would have to be my second.
And it's not even, and it doesn't seem like a fluke, because this is reminiscent of the year when they won the Super Bowl and everyone's like, oh, Peyton Manning. No, it was Von Miller in that defense. That's what got them this far. And the Broncos defense is what's carrying this team, much like the Steelers and the Chargers defenses. But and I'll say this about the Ravens. The Ravens aren't leading the division. They're out of it by half a game. But this might be the most complete Baltimore team we've seen in a while.
Right.
And so if outside of the Chiefs, and in the Bills, like I said, this is, the path to the Super Bowl was going to run through the AFC. I said that at the beginning of the season, before the season started. The path to the Super Bowl was going to run through the AFC. And I can see no knock against the Steelers, but, The Ravens are just, to me, they're just a more complete team. All for the fact that they have a quarterback who has proven himself. I gave flack to Lamar Jackson because I didn't know what type of quarterback we were going to see in the first half of the season. And for the most part, he has played quite admirably. And the Ravens could easily be 8-1 instead of 6-3. Easily.
Yeah.
And so this is not as if this team is, I'm not going to say they're giving away football games. They're playing tough football games. So I'd say but even though I picked the Steelers to win the division, I did, the AFC North, I'd say that the Broncos being in here from, the fact that the AFC West has 3 teams representing them.
That's crazy.
That's crazy talk. That's crazy.
There's no. We didn't sit here once and consider that at all. We said the Chargers was going to be rebuilding. The Kansas City Chiefs were going to do what the Kansas City Chiefs did.
I gave way too much credit to Vegas. You were obviously right on target with Vegas. So I'll give you your flowers right now.
Win.
I'll give you flowers right now. That team is 2-7. They're not going anywhere. No.
But let's sit here and just give a little bit of credit to the best team. Record speaking, you are who your record says you are. The 8-0 Chiefs. Let's sit here and give them some credit. And let me run through here. They're 8-0 right now. And let me run through the rest of their games real quick. Broncos, Bills, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. If they get through the next 2 weeks and they're still undefeated, they might be able to cruise to an undefeated season, if not a 1-loss season. There's no one really that stands out as challenging them. The Broncos, that division always beats each other up. The Broncos, I think, stole a win last year when they had no business stealing a win from the Chiefs. And then the Bills are playing really good football. If they make it out of that 10-0, do we see a reason why the Chiefs can't go undefeated?
You said they play Buffalo in 2 weeks?
Yeah, they play Broncos and Buffalo. That'll put them at week 11, so they'll be 10.
I mean, honestly, the only team that I can sit there and say really has a shot at beating the Chiefs is Buffalo.
Yeah,
Buffalo. Out of all those teams, even if it was last year and we're talking about Houston last year, I'd say maybe Houston, but Houston and Kansas City's offense is pretty much on par with one another. But the Chiefs' defense stands tall, a lot taller than Houston's, and and then
I would go as far as say the Texans' offense used to be on par, but now they have their 3rd, 4th, and 5th string wide receivers being their starters. So the Texans aren't getting help. And here's the thing, they're not getting any help.
And it's not. Yeah, the outlook for Houston's not looking better. It's not.
No.
If this was your output with your starters, then good luck. The only thing I can say is good thing they play in the AFC South because that's their saving grace. And unless, Joe Money can figure it out in Indianapolis, I think Houston's a safe bet to win that division. But, I would say the Bills and then maybe even Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh continues to play the way they're playing, and then granted, we have to see how they do with this Wildcat system they're doing with both Russell and Fields behind center, whatever packages they're throwing out there. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'd say those are the 2 teams that actually, if you were to sit there and say, okay, maybe those are the 2 teams, I could sit there and say maybe. Yeah,
but even then, the Steelers,
and then the one wild card is and the one wild card is the Chargers. That's the one wild card.
Yeah.
So that's only because that defense is so stout, and Mahomes has not been playing like Mahomes. But then that's a testament to Kansas City and what Andy Reid's done with this team is just how well they just lift each other up on all sides of the ball, and so they are not winning games because of Mahomes. They're winning games in spite of Mahomes. And so
I was waiting for you to say despite.
So this is this is one of those scenes that, like, even though Mahomes isn't playing like Mahomes, the fact that the Chiefs got to 8-0, these are hard-fought football games they're playing. And they're still, that defense is still stout. That offense hasn't been the offense past. But if they can keep it together long enough, Mahomes will figure it out. He will figure it out. And the last thing you want to do is to give Mahomes more time to figure it out. We're in the second half of the season. This is his 2-minute warning right here. You're giving him the ball with 2 minutes left, and he's going to figure it out. It will come down to the Chiefs. The difference between the Chiefs winning a third straight and not winning a third straight is going to be Mahomes coming alive and not coming alive. That's it.
Yeah, and if I had to put my money on that, I'm not going to bank on Mahomes having a down year in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely not. No.
If I had to bet on something, I'm going to say Mahomes is going to figure it out. I would bet anything I have on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we are at almost an hour. So do we want to just go to the fix of 6?
Let us bring up, and I promise you, let us do this disclaimer here. We're letting the NBA curdle a little bit. There's a lot of craziness floating on top of the conferences right now, so we're letting it curdle a little bit, little fermentation.
Yeah, we're letting it breathe. I'm letting the NHL breathe a little bit more.
Exactly.
This is our, the disclaimer here, okay? We will talk about the NBA and NHL. It will happen. So
we're not ignoring by any means, but last time I saw Cleveland is undefeated. And there's some teams that are there's some teams floating up there that they always say, "Oh, don't look now," but this team is undefeated or leading the conference, and we just we want to let some things settle. It's the same thing in the NHL. We just want to considering how long those seasons are. Let's just let things calm down. We promise you we'll talk about it. But right now we need to talk about what's in the heat of the moment and where the biggest stories are, which is why we took so much time to talk about the NFL. On that note, let's bring back our classic oldie but goodie that is our fix of 6. JB?
I love it.
Take it away.
JB's number 3 fix of 6. We have to talk about what it means to be an influential voice in sports. Stephen A, of course, opened his giant jaw and gabbed at the mouth again and said that Kevin Durant is a great player, but he's not a leader. Well, let's tell that to the first almost decade that he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they did nothing but rave about his leadership. Let's talk about his leadership when he was winning rings with Golden State. Let's talk about his leadership then. There was a line in an article written by The Athletic when it said Stephen A. Smith and then Charles Barkley, another influential voice of the NBA, shared the same sentiment. The NBA is a mess when it comes to influence. We have got to stop this. Stephen A., you might know him from such hits as Jerry Jones is the real victim in Dallas. And Charles Barkley from such hits as everything he has ever said ever. This is the NBA. If you want to listen to anybody about the NBA, listen to your own self. View it through your own eyes. Okay? Anybody who sat there and said that LeBron and Bronny on the court was like Griffey Sr. and Jr. in the same outfield was just absolute nutso. Because I don't remember Griffey getting demoted the moment he came up. No, but you know who just got demoted to a league that is like on par with the WNBA? Bronny. Bronny just got demoted, okay, to WNBA adjacent. All right, so let's not sit there and say that Stephen A. and Charles Barkley influential voices. All right, JB's fix of 6 number 2. This came out 3 weeks ago, but we haven't done a fix of 6. if you're living in the Chicago area, I need you to go to both the south side and the north side, and I need you to start a picket line, okay? I need you to go to the White Sox and say, sell the team, sell the team, sell the team. Jerry Reinsdorf needs to get rid of this franchise and sell it to someone who's willing to spend money. For all I can ever figure out, and I'll get to him, John Fisher is still the owner of not the Oakland A's. He's still the owner of the A's, and I will never understand that. Start a picket line, get Jerry Reinsdorf out, and while you're at it, go to the north side, go to Lake Michigan, go to Clark Avenue, and put up signs and tell Jed Hoyer and the Richards family to spend the damn money. Stop trying to fix the team on the fringes. This is $1 billion franchise, for goodness sake. What are we doing trying to make sure that we can find the next David Bodie and Miles Mastrobuoni? No. Spend the money. You got it. Stop running this franchise into the ground, for goodness sakes. And JB's Fix number 1. It is officially farewell to the Oakland Athletics. They're gone now. It is just the Athletics. I don't even know what that means. Like, you have a Major League franchise affiliated with no city, none at all. But here we are in the year 2024 with a billionaire owner who is like, you know what? Let's play at a minor league ballpark. At least the seats will be mostly filled now. I hope no one shows up to Sacramento. I hope no one shows up at these games. I hope John Fisher starts eating every day with a big old fat egg on his face. And Oakland, while you're at it, hey, there is a team in South Florida that does not have a home. The Coliseum's still open. I think most of the seats are still there. Why not just welcome the Tampa Rays? Why not just be the most ironic twist of baseball fate? You one team left, and you are home to another team for the next 2 years while their new stadium is built. It's not like you're not used to home wreckers. They're going to leave and wreck your home anyway. Just let them come in. Let them use your home. It's fine. It gives you some sense of normalcy to go to the ballpark and watch a baseball game. That's JB's Fix of 6.
On Manny's portion of your Fix of 6, I got number 3. Major League Baseball discovered that the San Diego Padres had made a verbal agreement with a prospect out of the Dominican Republic that they thought was 14 years old. After thorough investigation, I don't know why the Padres didn't do this investigation, but after the Major League did some thorough investigation, they figured out that the 14-year-old prospect was actually 19. And I have a rhetorical question for JB as I get my platform right now. JB, how many times have you sat there and looked at a 19-year-old and said, that guy's probably 14? Not once.
When on a piece of paper he wrote in green crayon, I am 12.
Yeah.
So that is...
It is. I can tell you, I can walk down the street and tell the difference between a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old. It is not that hard, San Diego Padres. Figure your crap out. It shouldn't require a whole investigation for you to figure out that some player is lying to you just to make the major leagues. Be better, San Diego Padres. On number 2, Manny's number 2 Fix of 6, Curt Cignetti, and I apologize if I mispronounce his last name. JB, who is he the coach of right now?
The coach of the great Indiana Hoosiers.
That's right. He currently has the Indiana Hoosiers as 8-0. Last year, he had them JMU. He started the season 10-0. He is the first coach ever in Division I to take 2 teams undefeated after switching teams in 1 year. Impressive. Give him some credit. Give the team some credit. Start ranking them in a way higher position that they are. But kudos to you, Curt. Way to show that coaching matters. Tell the Cowboys about that. And proving that you can make a difference no matter where you are. Way to solidify what you are as a person, as a coach, when you can say, hey, you know what I did over there? I'll do it for you too. Way to prove a point. And lastly, on Manny's number one fix of 6, I had one of our viewers walk up to me and tell me, "Hey, why aren't you guys talking about Army?" Guess what? We are making it our number one
I know who
fix
this
of
viewer
6.
is.
Army football. 8-0 Army football. We are sorry we didn't give you as much respect as we did. I wish we should have before. But kudos to you. You're currently ranked 14th, so right on the outside, looking into the college football playoff. But keep doing what you're doing. You have to go back all the way, and I'm still scrolling to December of last year to find a game where they won that game, but they only won it by single digits. Since then, they have won every single one of their games by double digit scores. They play North Texas this week, and I expect them to win. Their next biggest challenge will be on against 10th ranked Notre Dame, and if you can get through them, I'll mark my words, you will be at least team number 12 in the college football playoffs. So Army, kudos to you. Way to make the Service Branch football teams look good, because we know Air Force ain't gonna do that. But Army, kudos to you. Good job. We're looking forward to you, and I hope that you get the respect that you should be getting for being a dominant football team in the 2024 college football season. And that is the greatest way that you can finish your weekly fix of 6.
All right. Nice. We brought it back. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
It's good to be back in that old comforter on the
That's right.
on the nice mattress wrapped up in niceness.
Yep.
Yeah. Manny, what were you drinking today?
I was gonna say we have to bring back from the beginning, because we didn't cheers, but it's never too late to make up for our mistakes. Cheers, JB.
Clink.
Cheers to another great episode. What I was drinking, I keep going with affordable bottles, which I hope is a good helps some viewers if they want to try some whiskey. I got some Evan Williams bottled in bond 100 proof.
Nice. Can't go wrong That's with a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It is really good. I made a Manhattan out of it. I put a little bit of bitters.
You do a little.
I don't know if you can see
a little Bartesian.
Yeah, no, this was handmade by myself.
Crafted.
Yeah,
crafted is the word. Handcrafted. Yeah,
that's right. So I made a Manhattan out of it with some cherries, some citrus, some bitters. Tell you what, it's good for 100 proof. I know it's cocktail fashion, but 100 proof has never hit better. JB, what have you been drinking?
A Basil Hayden. That's it. A simple Basil Hayden. Yep. I get a lot of knock for it. That same listener who gave us a knock for not talking about Army is the same one who gave me a knock for drinking Basil Hayden. So, but it's delicious. It's easy. It's nice. And I've been smoking, for those who are curious, a Carrillo Honduras. Nice cigar. Only had to relight it once because I keep moving my jaw too much. But it's a good stick. Good stick. Folks,
shout out
Honduras. Thanks for joining us. You can find us on the Spotify, the Apple, the Amazon, Box Scores and Bourbon. Now we have the video uploaded. So now you can suffer along with us and see our faces just like we have to every day. And then on the TikToks and the Instagrams, BSB Sports 24, catch clips on there. Like us, follow us, comment on all the platforms. Like us, subscribe on YouTube as well.
Cheers, everyone. Till next week.